For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Motshabi Hoaeane. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner discusses the possibility that apartheid-style oppression might still be continuing in South Africa. Thank you so much once more, Professor, for your time.
Thank you very much.
In your column titled Persistence of the Past in the Present, it's not clear whether you're saying that apartheid oppression is continuing in South Africa or not. Please explain.
I think it's a complicated question that I was trying to grapple with, because I'm not saying that apartheid, nothing has changed. I don't agree with anyone who says that nothing has changed since 1994. There have been substantial changes. We live under a constitution which is one of the most democratic in the world. We've had 4 and we're soon to have 5 elections which have been attested to be free and fair. The state has provided substantial improvements in the lives of very many people, especially in the early years. For the first time, many people had access to water, to electricity. I remember, and I've possibly said this before on this program, how in the Eastern Cape you would see the electric wires going from one white town above the African villages to the next white town. So what African people saw of electricity was the wire. They never had electricity in their homes. And a number of these improvements took place. Not all were sustained. And in many cases, they were not adequately maintained or properly planned. But we've also seen a situation where, through access to the state, ANC leadership have provided some people with contracts, and some of these people have not delivered adequate quality services to people. And this is one of the reasons why we see sustained uprisings throughout the country over a range of things. But what I'm focusing on in that column is another question as well, and that is, if you pass a crime scene or alleged crime scene, you will see some people on the ground and police standing over them, and almost invariably there will be black people. If you have a roadblock, if you're a white person, you may very well be waved through, but the people who are focused on are black people. Where I stay, there is an enclosure, and I don't agree with that sort of thing with myself. I don't agree in gating. However, residents get periodic SMSs which warn them about suspicious-looking people. And almost invariably, these suspicious people, or allegedly suspicious people, are black people. So what has happened is that patterns of people who are unemployed, patterns of people who are in jail. If you get statistics, now I don't have statistics at this point, but my belief is that the statistics show that black people and African people in particular are not just the majority of those in prison, which one would expect because they're the majority of the population, but they are overrepresented beyond their percentage of the population, because a pattern has continued where the most disadvantaged people, the people who suffer repression, people whose children die, like 2 days ago, a 3-month-old child died as a result of tear gas. That doesn't happen in the wealthier areas, and the wealthier areas are primarily populated by white people.
How can it be with the democratic constitution that we have that you can say that there is alleged targeting of black people for repression?
I'm not saying that there is an intention at the level of subjective intention, that people are saying, okay, let's go and look out for black people to criminalize them. What I'm saying is the way in which black people are located in society, more likely to be on the streets, more likely to be homeless, more likely to be in informal settlements, more likely to be amongst that category of people which historically would be called vagrants, because something like 40% of the South African population is unemployed, and most of those are black people. They are hanging around very often, and people who are loitering, so-called, are the sort of people who are targeted. When police go and they look at situations, they see someone hanging around, what is he, which is mainly he, what is he planning to do? Maybe they are casing out a joint to steal. So because of the objective results of this process, that those who we see populating the jails, those who we see facing trial as accused, and those who often lie dead, are almost overwhelmingly so black people. I'm saying that blackness remains a code word for criminality, in fact.
Where then should we look for a remedy, Professor?
I think we need to ask ourselves in a very self-critical way, what is it that has gone wrong? Why has the promise of 1994 not been realized? And in my view, we need to involve in this process not just the formal political parties, because part of the protests that we see today is a level of disaffection with all political parties, not just the ANC. There is a sense that all parties, apart from the new EFF, about whom I would have reservations, but the EFF would be present in these situations. The police are present there before the ANC. The DA is not present in these things. The DA is not bringing litigation to improve people's lives. It brings litigation to have a vote of no confidence or to bring charges against Zuma, but it's not present and it's not bringing its finances to assist people over the TCB, the Traditional Courts Bill, and similar things. So there's a need for the involvement of a broad range of citizens. We need to take stock. What are the various initiatives that have been started in this country? For example, there was that citizens movement with Bobby Gotzel and James Motshabi. Now, what has happened to that? Can it have a broader range of its reach? We have a number of NGOs and social movements that are advancing united movements. NUMSA is trying to establish a social movement. So we need to ask ourselves how we can join all of these so they address the situation which reverses the subversion of the democratic gains that we've seen in the last few years.
That was Professor Suttner discussing how some South African citizens are still treated with suspicion despite the country's democratic constitution.